Education systems. China versus United States. In China, the education is divided into 3 categories: basic education, higher education, and adult education. By law, each child must have 9 years of compulsory education from primary school, 6 years, to junior secondary education, 3 years. Basic education in China includes preschool education, usually 3 years, primary education, 6 years, usually starting at the age of 6, and secondary education, 6 years. Secondary education has 2 routes: academic secondary education and specialized vocational technical secondary education. Academic secondary education consists of junior, 3 years, and senior middle schools, 3 years. Junior middle school graduates wishing to continue their education take a locally administered entrance exam, on the basis of which they will have the option of continuing in an academic senior middle school or entering a vocational middle school, or leave school at this point to receive 2 to 4 years of training. Senior middle school graduates wishing to go to universities must take National Higher Education Entrance Exam. According to the Chinese Ministry of Education, in June 2015, 9.42 million students took the exam. Higher education is further divided into 2 categories. 1. Universities that offer 4-year or 5-year undergraduate degrees to award academic degree qualifications, and 2. Colleges that offer 3-year diploma or certificate courses on both academic and vocational subjects. Postgraduate and doctoral programs are only offered at universities. The adult education ranges from primary education to higher education. For example, adult primary education includes workers' primary schools, peasants' primary schools, in an effort to raise literacy levels in remote areas. Adult secondary education includes specialized secondary schools for adults, and adult higher education includes traditional radio, TV universities, now online, most of which offer certificates, diplomas, but a few offer regular undergraduate degrees. Term times and school hours. The academic year is divided into 2 terms for all of the educational institutions: February to mid-July, 6 weeks summer vacation, and to September to mid-late January, 4 weeks winter vacation. There are no half terms. Most schools start from early morning, about 7:30 a.m., to early evening, about 6 p.m., with 2 hours lunch break. Many schools have evening self-study classes running from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., so students can finish their homework and prepare for endless tests. If schools do not run self-study evening classes, students still have to do their homework at home, usually up to 10 p.m. On average, a primary school pupils spend about 7 to 8 hours at school, whilst a secondary school student spends about 12 to 14 hours at school, if including lunch time and evening classes. Due to fierce competitiveness to get into good universities, the pressure to do well for Gaokao is intense. Many schools hold extra morning classes in science and math for 3 to 4 hours. United States education system. Prior to higher education, American students attend primary and secondary school for a combined total of 12 years. These years are referred to as the 1st through 12th grades. Around age 6, U.S. children begin primary school, which is most commonly called elementary school. They attend 5 or 6 years and then go on to secondary school. Secondary school consists of 2 programs. The first is middle school or junior high school, and the second program is high school. A diploma or certificate is awarded upon graduation from high school. After graduating high school, 12th grade, U.S. students may go on to college or university. College or university study is known as higher education. U.S. education facts. Just like American students, you will have to submit your academic transcripts as part of your application for admission to university or college. Academic transcripts are official copies of your academic work. In the U.S., this includes your grades and grade point average, GPA, which are measurements of your academic achievement. Courses are commonly graded using percentages, which are converted into letter grades. The grading system and GPA in the U.S. can be confusing, especially for international students. The interpretation of grades has a lot of variation. For example, two students who attended different schools both submit their transcripts to the same university. They both have 3.5 GPAs, but one student attended an average high school while the other attended a prestigious school that was academically challenging. The university might interpret their GPAs differently because the two schools have dramatically different standards. China and U.S. comparisons. 1. School grades. 2. Required education level. 3. School day. 4. Applying for higher education. And 5. College and higher education. School grades. China's education system has 3 main levels, composed of primary, secondary, and post-secondary. Primary education is what we typically call elementary level education. Secondary school is split into lower and upper, called Chuzheng and Gaozhang. These are equivalent to middle school and high school, respectively. The separation of these grade levels usually go 6 through 3, whereas 1st to 6th grade would belong in elementary school, 7th to 9th in another, and 10th to 12th comprising high school. In the U.S., 1st through 8th grades are labeled by years. For example, I'm in 7th grade, and high school and college classes are arranged as freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. China has each class named according to rank in their educational group. Upper secondary school and post-secondary education. Required education level. Unlike the U.S., where compulsory education laws require students to stay in school until 16 to 18 years of age, all students in China are required to complete at least 9 years of education. Students can either opt to enter upper secondary school, vocational secondary school, or enter the workforce directly afterwards. School day. While it's common for high school or even middle school students in America to hustle about to their next class when the bell rings, in China your instructor is the one that comes to you. It's typical for students to stay in a classroom during multiple lessons as teachers rotate, unlike American schools that provide electives such as choosing either biology or art or music or etc. Students in China are often required to take the same classes until high school. The length of the school day also varies. While in America, typically school starts at 8 and ends somewhere around 3 for K through 12. In China, the option of evening sessions are offered during middle school and high school in preparation for testing into higher educational institutions. Students often use this time to self-study or receive tutoring. Lunch periods are also often longer than that of American schools. Some Chinese middle schools and high schools offer lunch breaks during the day that can span up to 2 hours. 4. Applying for higher education. While in America, attending high school is a right, in China, children are required to take an exam in order to get into their preferred high schools. Students can attempt to obtain higher education by passing entrance exams, which ask questions from a multitude of subjects and uses the final scores to rank and file students to different institutions. The senior high school entrance exams make students face rigorous problems and is generally what determines which schools students end up attending. Applicants set preferences beforehand, where they rank which schools they wish to attend and are offered admission based on their scores. Seeking college education in China is a similar process. While teenagers in the U.S. are graded holistically based on a multitude of factors, extracurricular activities, volunteer practices, GPA, SAT, and ACT test scores, essays, potential contribution to college environment, students in China are mostly graded on a standardized national exam. The National Higher Education Entrance Examination, called Gaokao, operates similarly and is hosted nationwide in June 7th. Although each student experiences some difference over what they are being assessed on based on their province, 3 main categories are a must for all: literature, mathematics, and foreign language. The students are accepted based on the universities they expressed interest in. the threshold for admittance of these said universities and students' test results. Because of how significant test scores are, there have been incidents of cheating in testing arenas. Pressure from months of cramming and dedication, along with the high stakes of failing, always prompt several test takers to take the risk. In recent years, China has even deployed drones above the testing facilities to pinpoint suspicious activities. Attempting to use surrogate test takers and wireless communication devices has not been unheard of. College and higher education. In universities, like in many other countries, students can earn a bachelor's degree and progress upward to a master's and doctoral degree. Applying as undecided into college, although a common practice amongst American teens, is usually unheard of in China. The majority of colleges in China require students to declare a major in humanities or the sciences instead of having them declare after completing prerequisite coursework. Just like America has its collectively approved elite colleges, several universities in China are also considered extremely prestigious. China education system. Their strengths. Schools offer and even require extra studying and tutors. Strict education expectations, and students mainly focus on Common Core subjects until high school, therefore they should be masters in the subjects. Their weaknesses: little to no choice in taking elective courses and long school days. U.S. education system. Strengths: allows students to take and learn about elective courses, doesn't require students to take exams to get into high schools, and shorter school days to allow students to experiment in extracurricular activities. Their weaknesses: poor and non-strict requirements of education standards, and students in schools are required to offer study help or tutoring. U.S. education that needs improvement. They need to raise the standards and requirements for U.S. students learning Common Core courses like math, science, writing, and language arts. China can learn from the U.S. by allowing students to have the opportunity to take elective courses and to allow students to take the time to invest in extracurricular activities.